My name is Ashish Mahabal, and we'll be continuing with the module on best programming practices, the last part of it. So today we'll be seeing a little bit about portfolio building, but before that, just a quick word about metaprogramming. So what that means is that you will want to separate some configuration files which have specific data which can be changed by either the user or you yourself will be changing that later. That allows you to have all the abstraction in your code, and then that can be separate, which doesn't have to be touched again and again or perhaps even ever. Once you have the metadata or the bits that need to be changed in separate configuration files. So you should have those configuration files for various things. Those can be plain text files, and you can change that very easily later on. When it comes to portfolio building, what I would like to advise is that you should have as wide a repertoire as possible. So you should have mastery of, say, one or two languages, but also have many generic tools at the tip of your hands. You should especially learn how to handle plain text. Many people I found just don't know how, when they are sent a plain text file, what to do with that. You should remember that it's easier to test. You can have config files in that. Or the other thing that you should remember is you would normally be accessing shells on your computer, like especially if you're Unix-like computers. Learn how to handle those, and there are very powerful programs that the shells come with, like find and set and awk and grep. Make sure that you know them at least to an extent, because rather than writing some long programs, you'll be able to use just those programs to do a lot of work for you. Similarly, if you're using bash or CSH, then there are some bash RC, tcshRC like files that go with them. Learn about the details of those, and you'll be able to accomplish a lot by knowing the intricacies of such things. And it's not a big learning curve. It's fairly straightforward to learn. Just the very fact that they exist is not known to many people, but once they get into it, they realize how quickly they can do a lot of things with those. Similarly, with languages, try to learn some languages that have completely different flavors, some that you need to compile, some where spacing is important, some in which spacing is not important, because all of them have their strengths. And then once you know some different types, then you'll be able to use them in different situations more efficiently. Again, with editors, I'm sure that each of you has some favorite editor, and it's good to know that as much as possible. But make sure that you know a couple others, at least to an extent. If you are very good at Emacs, try to learn VI or Sublime or something like Nano. And you'll find that sometimes you find using the other editor quickly for something short is very useful. Or when someone else is describing something to you in their favorite editor, you'll be able to get that quite well. So each of these editors comes with various interesting tools which are time-saving, like syntax highlighting is possible these days, auto-completion, auto-indentation, and various boilerplates. And of course, there's built-in help. So try to make sure you understand all of those. And like was mentioned before, you have cheat sheets even for editors. So make sure that you have those printed out and put next to your workspace so that you can take a look at them whenever you want to. Then if you are trying to do some text manipulation, languages like Perl and Ruby are extremely powerful in doing that. So learn at least just a little bit of those two languages. Then there can be various code generators that will help along in a big way. So small subroutines that go with these code generators can write much of your code quite easily. These also include shell scripts that can be fairly easily written, or config files. We talked about those a little bit earlier. In our transient astronomy, we have something called, we have built something called Sky Alert. And when a new transient is found, a transient is an object that changes in brightness, and we are interested in studying those. So when a new transient is found, the Sky Alert auto code generator, the active code generator, goes out and fetches data from various archives. And then it incorporates those data into the data that we have found for the new transient. And then if certain conditions are met, then it can do additional things like running some other programs or raising an alert, etc. So it becomes very handy being able to write such active code generators. And it's not difficult, so it's definitely something that you should try to make part of your portfolio. Then there are various websites that you can visit, like the 99 Bottles of Beer website. It shows how to write that particular program in various different programming languages, and that allows you to compare how those languages work. And similarly, there are programming shootouts you can compare different languages there. There are, of course, various debates that go on, but here is a more objective look at various features of different languages. Similarly, Project Euler is a fantastic resource. There, various mathematical problems are stated, and you're supposed to use programs to solve them. And once you solve them, you get access to the same program written in other programming languages. Recently, the site was hacked, and for some time that may not be available, but I'm sure that will be coming back soon. And it's a fantastic resource. We already saw earlier about memoization. Definitely that's something you should learn about, various caching strategies, etc. I won't go into more details of that right now. I'm going to leave you with a couple of exercises. It is an exercise. If you are given a certain amount, and if you want to find out how many ways there are of dividing that amount using, say, the standard US coins, pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters, that is coins of denomination 1, 5, 10, and 25, how can you do that? The problem is normally stated where you want to divide 100 cents into ones and fives and tens and 25s. If you start with simply a 1, if you are separating a single penny into these 4 denominations, there will be only one way of doing that. 2, 3, 4, again, there will be only one way of doing that. But the moment you come to 5, you can either get 1 coin of 5 or 5 coins of 1. So there are 2 ways. And then as you go to higher numbers, there will be multiple ways of doing that. So the next part of the question, and this is where you'll be able to build your program, is you should answer this question for all numbers from 1 to 100. And then having answered that, you should find out the ones that which return an odd number of different number of ways of doing the sum. And then you should simply say whether the odd number of numbers, they are odd or even. So that's essentially an exercise. So you should definitely try to give it a go. Here is another exercise. On lifehacker.com, some time back, a program was put out about a better strategy for hangman. Given a particular length of word that you're looking for and given frequencies of letters in different words, how one can solve that in a meaningful and easy fashion. I would like you to try to solve the same thing using only Unix commands. I mentioned a few earlier, so try to take a look at that. With that, we'll stop by summarizing what are the lessons that we may have learned from this best programming practices. You should remember that a chain is as weak as its weakest link, so try to have your portfolio include many strong languages and find the strong features of each of them. Include a lot of comments wherever possible for yourself and for others. Make sure that you write lots and lots of tests, that your programs are orthogonal, don't duplicate yourself, design by contract, and again, know the features of the language or whatever module that you're using. And then again, try to optimize your programs in the way that we have told you about, not in arbitrary ways. Follow the best practices and have fun coding. Thank you.